Um, so I'm looking around the screen today, and I think that most of us were here last time. So I'm going to skip the round of introductions, if that's okay with everyone, and just get right into our program. So State Senator Becker had to cancel his meeting with our group this morning because he had a newly scheduled committee meeting that he had to attend. Kim's going to work on rescheduling him, however. Today, you probably all know we're moving into the red tier of the state of California's blueprint for a safer economy. And so we were very happy that some of the City of Los Altos staff is able to be with us today to talk to us about what the city's doing. We're going to hear an update on COVID protocols, about resources that can help our businesses, ways to get prepared for an emergency. So we have city staff from Economic Development, Emergency Preparedness, and the Police Department here to answer your questions. So first, please welcome Anthony Carnesecca, who we all know, our Economic Development Coordinator, and Hepenstal, who I think is here. There she is, Emergency Preparedness Coordinator, and Scott McCrossin, our Police Captain. And with that, Anthony, go ahead.
All right, well, thank you guys for having me. I'm going to share my screen. I will say that I'm going to go first, and then Anne's going to back clean up. She's much more entertaining and lively than me. So I'll try and get through my portion as quickly as possible. And then if it's okay with everyone, we'll go through my presentation, Anne's presentation, and then we'll do question and answer at the end. And I'm going to do my best to answer any questions you guys have, but as Cindy mentioned, and you all know, this was announced yesterday at about 1 o'clock. So if I don't have the information, we'll try and get that to you as quickly as possible after the meeting. All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. I clicked on the wrong screen. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anthony Carnesecca. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Los Altos. I recognize all the names in the video, but if you guys want to take a screenshot, please go ahead and take my information down. I'm always available via call or email. Kim also knows how to get a hold of me, so you can always reach out to Kim, and I'm happy to connect through there. And then there are some links to the city websites. Kim, I will send the slides to you after the meeting, and you can send them out to everybody who's here, so you can actually click through all the links that I have in the presentation.
Great, we can post them on our website as well.
Perfect. All right, this is my standard disclosure. This was not approved by the city attorney. This was just created by me. I'm not the seer of all seen things, knower of all known things. This presentation was put together with the best intent. If you are interested in applying for any grants, loans, programs through the state, federal government, please consult a tax professional, a CPA, a lawyer, anyone with more intelligence than I do in specific areas to see what that impact would have on your business. So please do that before applying for anything. So I'll kind of paint the picture of the timeline for COVID. I know it's hard to believe, but we're coming up on that year anniversary of when we were shut down. March 12th, 2020 was when the city declared a state of emergency, which was actually before the county issued a shelter-in-place order. So the city was very proactive in that sense. I remember getting sent home from City Hall, and we were told that there was something going on. There was a public health emergency, and little did we know that my second bedroom has become my new office. So for the past year, we've been working remotely, and a lot of our businesses have been trying to navigate all the information as it comes at you. In August, the state did unveil the blueprint for a safer economy. And then in December, they did issue a regional stay-at-home order as the numbers got pretty bad. So as the case count went up, they said goodbye to the blueprint. And then in late January, we actually returned to the blueprint, and we were in the purple tier until yesterday when it was announced that today we're moving into the red tier. So a little bit about the public health order. What's changing today? The big news is that we're obviously going into the red tier, which means that indoor dining can resume at a maximum occupancy of 25% or 100 people, whichever is fewer. Retail stores can increase their capacity from 25% to 50%. Gyms and fitness centers have a maximum of 10% capacity now. And movie theaters, this was a big surprise that the county continued with the state order that movie theaters are allowed at a maximum 25% capacity or 100 people, whichever is fewer. The one question I had about that, and I have reached out to the county and the state, is that per theater, or what is that 100-person capacity limit going to look like? I know we don't have any movie theaters in Los Altos, but I think it's an important distinction to understand what the rules for occupancy is. It based on rooms or the whole facility? And then zoos, museums, and aquariums can open at 25%, which is good news for our history museum, that they're able to open at an indoor capacity if they would like. But the biggest news that I think came out of this, in addition to the capacity, is that the county sector specific local directives, which had been kind of driving a lot of our businesses with a lot of the rules and regulations for what they're allowed to do in COVID, are no longer in effect. So what that means is that all of our restaurants, retailers, everyone who's been following these county guidelines now needs to look towards the state, which does have additional guidelines and their industry specific directives. Additionally, the county mandatory directive on travel is no longer in effect. So what that means is people no longer need to quarantine per the county's guidelines. The county is still highly suggesting that if you do leave the county, that you come back in quarantine. So although it is no longer in effect, they are still encouraging people quarantine upon the return from travel. All right, so the state industry specific guidance, I can't go into each one. I'm short on time here, but there is the website that I can send out, and I'll put it in the chat so you can go through and look at each of the industry specific guidance as it's there. And they have about a 15-page document per industry sector. So restaurants, personal services, retailers, everybody has their own guidance. The big changes that I noticed from yesterday to today, I have been reading through trying to figure out what the big changes are. The big changes are that logbooks tracking customer visits are no longer required. So for the longest time, personal services and restaurants, as they conducted business indoors and even outdoors for personal service, they needed to keep track of who was visiting them, what their information was, all of these things. I read through the guidance and I didn't seem to notice any information about requiring logbooks. They still encouraged reservations for restaurants and personal services. And they did say that even though there are no logbooks, you must still do customer checks at the door. So you still must check that nobody's come into contact with anybody with COVID. There's no temperature issues. Nobody is feeling any of the symptoms. So even though there's no logbooks, you still need to check with customers before they enter your business that they are safe to do so. And then for our restaurants, it did say limit the number of patrons at a single table to a household unit or patrons who have asked to be seated together. Now, this is a challenging sentence, and I have reached out to the county for clarification on what this means, because up until this point, our restaurants had been required to have a maximum of 6 people, all within the same household, could eat together at a table. Based on this interpretation of reading it, it seems as though a certain number of patrons could come forward and ask to be seated together, and the restaurant could honor that. Now it's up to the individual restaurant what they'd like to do in order to keep everyone safe. So it's kind of a choice in that scenario. But the big key is that when people are sitting down at a table, they have to be at least 6 feet from everybody else outside of that table. So tables still need to be 10 feet away from one another. All right. So a little bit of explanation of the orders. Businesses are restricted from both county and state orders. At this time, though, the county and the state are aligned in the red tier. So the good news is that up until this point, we had some conflict between the orders and we had to figure out which one was the most stringent. At this time, both organizations, the county and state, agree that we're in the red tier and all of those guidelines will prevail. So the blueprint for a safer economy is a 4-tier system. I'm going to touch on it right here. So you can see that this is the chart that we're kind of basing all of the decisions on as a state and as a county. Where we are now is our adjusted case rate at 5.8 puts us in that red tier right here at the 4 to 7. Our positivity rate of 2.1 actually puts us in the orange tier, which is awesome that we're actually a tier ahead here. And then our health equity quartile at 4.8 actually puts us in the orange tier as well. So the good news is that we do have 2 of the 3 necessary requirements to move into the orange tier. When would we move there? It would be at least 3 weeks. So we have to stay in this red tier for at least 3 weeks, and we have to show at least 2 weeks. So next week and then the following Tuesday, when they're evaluated weekly, that we would be able to move into the orange tier. So the big key I want to emphasize here is that this adjusted case rate is adjusted based on how many COVID tests we're doing. So if we do more COVID tests, then the number is adjusted based on that. And so you can see our true number is 10.1, but our adjusted case rate is 5.8. So the latest county order, the county obviously removed the industry specific directives, but the big things they want to emphasize are that these 5 components are still intact for the county. You are going to require employees and customers to wear face coverings, maintain at least 6 feet from others at all times, and that people are washing their hands and sanitizing supplies as well as tables. Anything that customers come into contact with needs to be sanitized between uses. In order to stay open, businesses will need a social distancing protocol dated October 11th, 2020 or later. And you must require employees to do their jobs from home whenever possible. And the biggest one is that it's really important that people report to the public health department within 4 hours if anyone tests positive. So if anyone is confirmed positive for COVID, please report it to the public health department and they'll be able to help you. There are the capacity limitation guidelines. So for some of our small businesses, you know, they're small spaces and you don't know how to calculate how many people can be in the space at any given time. This website will actually give you that fire marshal calculator and you can do the math yourself to figure out how many people are allowed in your space under the latest order. Perfect. So this is what all of our businesses should have in their windows. It's a red check mark. The green check mark means that it was done prior to October. So the red check mark means that you are compliant with the new check mark. And then the social distancing protocol visitor information form. So this is just simple information that when you get this check mark, this will be printed out with it. And you've got to make sure that these are posted at all entrances to your business. So if anyone's coming in, they see this. Additionally, please make sure that you have the capacity limitation guidelines posted right next door to these so that people can see how many people are allowed inside the business at any time. All right, so I want to get to the good news after we just talked about how we're moving into the red tier. The good news is that this morning I did update this slide. 9% of eligible residents over 16 have received both doses of the vaccine, which is great news. That's really great news. And you can see that it's on an upward trajectory, that every day we're moving up and up. And 20% about of our residents have at least 1 dose, which is great news, that people are getting vaccinated and they're getting vaccinated more and more every day. The one thing I do want to caution everyone is that 10% is 1 in 10 people. So continue to stay safe, continue to wear masks. And even if you have been vaccinated, please wear masks and please continue to be tested. I think that some people feel that once they've been completely vaccinated that they're good to go. Please stay safe, wear your masks, and continue to social distance and make sure to get tested. Anne wanted me to remind everyone, and I think it's an important reminder for everyone. Who's currently eligible for the vaccine? Right now it's healthcare workers, long-term care residents, individuals 65 and older, regardless of occupation, education and childcare employees, which includes all staff and teachers at schools and daycare centers, food and agriculture, including those who work in restaurants, and emergency services. So if you fall into any of these categories, you can sign up for an appointment through sccfreevax.org. I know right now the state has handed over control of the vaccine distribution and management to Blue Shield. And currently there's conversation about what the best website to go to. The state also has a website that is available to determine when your time would be up for the vaccine, but for now, the county is directing people to sccfreevax.org. So who's going to be eligible next? It will be individuals aged 16 to 64 who are deemed to be very highest risk from COVID due to health conditions. If you think that you would fall into this category or know someone who might, please reach out to your doctor. I would say that I've heard some from Kaiser that they may be sending out letters to people who may be qualifying under this group, but I would say that there is a comprehensive list on the state's website where you can go through and read the conditions that would apply. But I would say if you do have questions, it may be best to reach out to your doctor as to whether you qualify for this next tier. As for the time of this, we don't know yet when we'll move into this next tier. And that is completely dependent on how many people are being vaccinated in the current group and then move from there into the next one. So keep getting tested. It's an important thing to remember that even through this time, we need to keep getting tested. There are 3 opportunities for you to get tested in Los Altos. You don't need to go too far. El Camino Health is going to have a downtown testing site on Tuesday, March 9th at the Assistance League. The county is going to be testing on March 25th, right at City Hall at our youth center, and then Thursday, April 29th at Grant Park. So please, if you can, sign up for one of these test appointments. We'll obviously share this PowerPoint, which will have the live links to be able to register online for this. So the enforcement of the order. This is the part where our county needs to make sure that people are following the guidelines. And I do know that the county did come out somewhat recently to do checks. So it's very important that people understand that the county is enforcing the order and is trying to make sure that everyone stays safe and keeps distance and follows all of the guidelines within the order, as well as the specific directives for each sector. So restaurants, you need to keep tables 10 feet apart. Personal services, you need to make sure that everybody's wearing masks at all times. Really important that people follow the order. The common issues for businesses. I did reach out to the county and I got the top 5. I'm not David Letterman with his top 10, but I've got my top 5. The common issues that are facing a lot of our businesses. Really important that people verify they have an updated social distancing protocol. I know I mentioned that before, but I like to reiterate it because that was the #1 issue that I've heard across the whole county, was that people did not have those check marks in their windows. So please make sure you do that. Please make sure you have that social distancing protocol visitor information sheet and your reduced capacity limit signage. So make sure you have all of that. It's really important that all employees and customers at restaurants are wearing masks when they're not eating or drinking. So when people are sitting at a table, they're waiting in between their food service. If they're not taking drinks, it's really important that they're wearing masks and staying safe. This one is one of the more challenging ones. It's really important that you train your employees so they understand all portions of that social distancing protocol. Ultimately, it's when you're not there, someone's going to need to be able to understand all the components of staying safe and following the guidelines. And that's been a big issue that the county has been seeing. And then for restaurants, make sure your tables are 10 feet apart. I have a couple updates on what the county's been doing. The county did authorize an eviction moratorium last March, and it has been extended through March 31st, 2021. That means that commercial tenants cannot be evicted during the shelter-in-place order and will have 120 days, so about 4 months after the moratorium, to pay back rent. It's really important that people understand that last point, that this eviction moratorium does not wash any sort of rental payments or lease payments, but that you do need to pay within 120 days after the eviction moratorium has been lifted. I would encourage you, if you haven't, please reach out to your landlord. I think at this point, most of our businesses have. It's been about a year, to see if you can work out any type of arrangement moving forward to help you through the difficult time. The delivery fee cap. So this was a great thing that the county did. I applaud the chamber and everybody else who had a hand in helping support the county through this. In January, the county did set a hard cap of 15% for delivery orders and 10% for pickup orders for all fees. And they did require consumer disclosures showing which portion of the bill goes to the restaurants, which was a big thing that in a call with the county we really advocated for, was just making sure that there's transparency to customers so they're aware of what they're paying to DoorDash, Grubhub, all of these vendors, and what they're actually paying to the restaurants. It does not allow any third-party food delivery service to limit service within the county. So they can't choose to not serve Los Altos because of this cap. They have to serve everyone or no one. If you notice that these fees don't line up with what you've been charged, please reach out to me and I'll connect with you on what the best next steps are. So the city's response, I'm going to try and go through this quickly. I know I've I'm running out of time here. The big thing that we've been doing is connecting with a lot of our partner organizations. I really want to applaud the Chamber, Lava, La Pod, and our town crier for everything they've been doing to keep our businesses as informed as possible. I think the last year, the one thing that I've learned is that collaboration can really make a lot of great things happen, especially between a lot of great organizations. So I really appreciate everything that Chamber's been doing to push out all of our messaging so that all of you are aware of what's going on. Obviously, working individually, I'm more than happy to connect with any business if you want to. We've been updating our website, hosting webinars. This is a link to our webinar with the SVBDC, which is in San Jose, and they help small businesses that need assistance. In June of last year, we did have the Small Business Relief Fund. And then a lot of our bigger things is our What's Open Los Altos program, where we do have a website showing what's open, retail, restaurant, personal service, Open Streets Los Altos. The one thing I do want to highlight at the bottom here is that our city council last Tuesday did approve a business license fee extension through September 30th, 2021. What that means is that if you have not paid your business license fee for the year 2021, you will be okay and you won't be charged any late fees as long as you pay before then. So if you have any issues or questions regarding your business license, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to walk you through that. And we can make sure that you have about 6 months now in order to make the payment, and there will be no late fees. All right, What's Open Los Altos? This is our website. My final little plug. What's Open losaltos.org was started, last March when we didn't know how we could help educate people about what's open. I know in the red tier it feels like everything is opening up, but a lot of people don't know what the hours of operation for a lot of businesses are, what type of services they're going to be offering during this pandemic. So please reach out to us if you want to be on this website and if you have any hours of information that you'd like on there. All right, some financial resources. I'm going to speed through these. Financial resources, as of right now, the only federal resources available are the Paycheck Protection Program, which is still available. The good news is that there is a current window through next Tuesday, March 9th, that's only for small businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 20 employees. So if you fall into that category, you have a clear window when only you will be allowed to apply. No large corporations, no businesses with more than 20 employees will be able to apply during this time. Also, they did expand access to business owners with legal and financial troubles. I know that previously they had been pretty strict on who could apply. They are really opening it under the current administration to most any business that qualifies with size of employees. For our state programs, the COVID relief grant program, which a lot of people applied for, did get an additional allocation of $1.5 billion in the latest state package, which is great news, and it is expected to reopen sometime in the near future. The good news, in addition to our business license fee waiver, is that the state is going to also have a fee waiver, 2 years of fee waivers for restaurants and bars, and 2 years of fee waivers for barbering and cosmetology individuals. All right. The last plug I have, be aware of loan scams. I really want to encourage people, if you do get a call and someone says they're with an organization and you don't know whether to trust them, please give me a call, give Kim a call, give anyone a call. Make sure that you verify who they are and who they're with before you provide any personal information. And with that, I just want to say the county does have a final health advisory. Go outdoors, stay masked, maintain at least 6 feet, avoid crowds, and get vaccinated when it's your turn. It's really important that even if a business is allowed indoors, if you can maintain your business outdoors, please try to, because it is safer. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ann.
And of course, we would add, and get tested when you can. Regular testing is important. It continues to be a really important tool to understand where the virus is spreading and to find people that may not have symptoms. Even if you've been vaccinated, you can be carrying it and cannot have symptoms and spread it. So continue your testing. So thank you very much, Anthony. I'm delighted to have an opportunity to talk to you guys about emergency preparedness. Obviously, this is something I could probably talk about for 6 hours, but I will try and calm myself down and do it more briefly. Go ahead and flip a page, please. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of an overview. Some of you may have heard some of these, some of you may not. So I want to tell you a little bit about city emergency response, that you know what goes on behind the scenes, and give you some information about strengthening emergency preparedness. Of course, we always want to talk about crime prevention, and then we'll do, Anthony and I will answer questions. Go ahead. So how does the city prepare for disasters? Bing. We take this approach. So we take in the city what we call an all hazards report approach, which means we need to understand what are the hazards. Well, if I ask you, okay, well, what are the vulnerabilities of Los Altos? Hopefully a few things pop immediately to mind. You should be thinking earthquake, because we live in earthquake country. You should be thinking wildfire. Just, wildfire does not respect boundaries. Sparks can travel a long way. We experienced some of the thrill of wondering if the sparks would head our way last fall. And with this very dry winter, it does not shape up to be any better this summer. Then other vulnerabilities, flooding, whether it's localized or if you are near a creek. A lot of people know about Adobe Creek, but they might ignore Hill Creek or some of the other creeks. And it wasn't that many years ago that even Little Woodland Library was flooded and had damage, and they are not directly near a creek. There's a role for government and there's a role for the community and businesses. So of course, in the government, we do our part, right? We have our professional first responders. We have public works ready to help. We do the work to have an emergency operations plan. But we want all our community members and all our businesses to do their role too. We want you to know what are the official sources of warnings and to be signed up for them. We want you to think about your evacuation routes. If you had to leave fast, how would you go? What's another way you would go? What's a way that you would go that's not on the main routes? We want you to have a couple different paths in case we have to block off some of the main roads to bring in emergency vehicles or to turn it into a one-way road. We want you to do some basic emergency preparedness and planning. And I would love it if you have some first aid and response skills. So we all have a role to play in this, and we have to work together. Go ahead. So what do we do in Los Altos? I mentioned the all hazards approach. Basically, in doing our planning, we don't say we do this if X happened and that if Y happened. We'd say, okay, something bad just happened. Now, how do we get our arms around it? And what are we going to do? So that's the all hazards approach. We use the standardized approach. It's a lovely alphabet soup, ICS, SEMS, NIMS, but it basically gives us a structure that everybody recognizes. Our community volunteers are trained in it. Our emergency response personnel are trained in it. Other cities use it. And it gives us a common structure and common vocabulary so that we can manage our emergency response as effectively as possible and work with others if we brought in mutual aid. We do a drill once a year. Last year, we didn't do a drill because we had the joy of activating to respond to COVID. So we got a lot of real life practice. We'd rather do drills than do it in real life. And I have a couple of dramatic pictures here of our EOC in its normal state as a conference room down at the Municipal Services Center. And then in action when we're doing our drill, and you can see Anthony there just behind Captain McCrossin's head. So he's wearing his vest. He's part of the planning team, and he's one of our backup public information officers. Go ahead. So when a disaster event occurs, how can the city respond and how long will that take? And the answer is, it depends. And help might come within hours or it might be days. So you need to be ready to take care of yourself. So let me show you why. You think, well, geez, I call the police and they come. Yeah, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody's on shift. The day shift of the police are working. But if it's 2 a.m., I'm home sleeping and I can walk to the EOC, but it'll take me a bit. Anthony's home, presumably sleeping, COVID, not out partying. People are doing their real lives, and at night they're with their families and their home, wherever their home is. There's some police on duty, of course, but if we had to call people in, it's going to take a while. So this is some data from the commute survey, just to give a reality check. How long would it take? Oh yeah, 2 a.m. I call and the police come and the fire comes. Yeah, normal times. We have 2 fire stations in town. That's 2 engines, that's 6 firefighters. We have police officers on shift, but we don't have as many working, and we don't have the people in the office that could go out in the field like we do during the day. And so when you look at the distance they'd have to travel, it's almost 30 miles on average for the police department and almost 30 miles on average for our municipal services team. And so that's a pretty significant time to drive in if their families are okay, if they can travel on the road, if the bridge isn't down, if the overpasses didn't collapse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? If they can get there. So we need to take individual responsibility and think of, okay, what do I need to do? And this is why we emphasize the need for community preparedness. I see people staring at this and frowning. Yeah, it's kind of startling. And other cities will not have a much different profile, right? You can think, well, Mountain View will help. Their commute picture looks similar. You just have to realize on the peninsula, this is how it is. Okay, Anthony. So what does that mean for you, right? How can I improve my emergency preparedness and help my staff? Well, I'm going to talk about each of these things. So next page. So emergency notifications, this is a simple one. You can do this right now. I won't even mind if you leave and you go to alertscc.org website right now and register. If you're registered, you want to periodically check because sometimes you change, you get a new cell phone, somebody's new in your household, whatever. Register your home address, your contact info with your home county alert system. In Santa Clara, that's Alert SCC. In San Mateo County, it's SMC Alert. Every county has one. I just put those two. San Benito County, Alameda County, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody have alert. Just Google, your county name and alert system. It'll pop up. We use this to send you alerts. You don't get a lot of them. Right? If you're registered, you've gotten a few during COVID-19. That's the most I've ever gotten in a year. We hope to never use this. It should be very boring, right? But it's important to have it. And I realized I did not put in the phone numbers. I will send that to Kim so she can send them out to all of you. And you can put the phone number in so that it's not someone offering to clean your carpets. It's a real number that you should answer and get your emergency alert, right? Because it'll come in as an 800 call. They might be countywide, like the shelter in place notices we've gotten. They might be targeted by neighborhood, like when Los Altos Hills was getting the warnings, you may need to evacuate, be ready. And so it's important that you register it. We have your home address so that they can target you. Now, Nixle, this is something our police department uses quite often. You can sign up right now. You send, you open up a new text message, and instead of typing in a phone number, you type in 888-777. And instead of typing in the invitation, and I want to buy you lunch, you type in your zip code. And so you can do this for downtown Los Altos, 94022, enter. You can do it multiple times, up to 5 zip codes. You might want to do it for home and for work and where your business is and where your kid is in school and where your spouse works. It's up to you and your personal circumstance. I believe it's the same number of other counties as well, but you can experiment. And this will give you notices. They're usually advisories. It might be, hey, the downtown roads are going to be closed off for farmers market. Oh yeah, it's Thursday. I'll replan my route, right? But it can be something more significant. Like last year, there was an accident on Foothill Expressway. The power lines came down and the road was shut. Well, that was really good to know for a South Los Altos resident. Stay away from that area. Oh, I'm headed that way. I'm going to reroute myself. So it can be very useful. And then, of course, hopefully you're aware, PG&E periodically will do the public safety power shutoffs, especially during the high risk of wildfire. And you can sign up to get a notification. You can sign up with your own account to get notified about your home. You can also get zip code level alerts. So say you are renting space for your business, you may or may not own the PG&E account for that location, depending on your arrangement. You can sign up to get a zip code level alert as well. Go ahead, Anthony. So with power, the other things to know about Flex Alert, right? We're probably going to hear more of those this summer. More people, it's getting hotter, so more people are getting air conditioning, which uses power, and it's getting hotter and it's drier, so it's more risk of wildfire. The Flex Alert is calling on us all to conserve electricity and try and not use it to ease strain on the power grid. Because if we don't, then you might have rotating outages, right? Where they may need to cut it off. So register with PG&E, they will notify you of rotating outages. They have a lookup tool on the website. I grabbed a couple of pictures to show what that looks like, and it's pretty easy to find on the PG&E website. Go ahead. Next thing, make a plan and make a kit, right? So make a communications plan. So as a small business owner, if there's a disaster, how will your staff check in with you? How will you know if they're okay, that they can report to work? If it happened when they're at work, do they know how to reach you and tell you what just happened? Or how would you update them on work conditions? And if you want them to report to work, hopefully you have their phone numbers or know how to do that. You probably had to work through that with COVID, but it's a good reminder to just check on that. Commuting plan, does your staff have one, right? Do they have alternate routes home? If they couldn't go home, do they have a place to stay? You know, just to get people to thinking about that, right? They don't have to know literally where they go, but you know, oh yeah, I could call friend so-and-so. Or yeah, if I couldn't go across down 101 because bridges, you know, the overpass is collapsed, I could route myself this way. And then something to think about is, do you have some little bit of food and water at your business in case people have to shelter for a few hours? You know, even if it's as simple as a gas leak and you have to shelter in place and close all the doors and windows, you're going to be in place. Do you have some basic first aid supplies? And encourage your employees, have a basic emergency kit. You know, if there's someone who has a car and gets to work in their car, then it's always with them if it's in their car, so that if they got stuck somewhere, they have some food and water and so forth. And on our website, losaltosca.gov/GoBag, I have a ton of information about all sorts of different emergency kits, from go bags that you take with you when you have to rush out the door, to kits to have in your home, and some kits for the car. And Los Altos Hardware has a lot of stuff in stock. You can just pop over and they'd love to talk to you about it. They helped me put together a nice flyer on the car kits. Go ahead. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, go back. Voicemail. So this is a great thing for communications. It's on my to-do list because I did a little search and I was unsuccessful. I have to do it again. Here's my phone. It's nice and charged right now. But if the disaster happened and I ran out of power on my phone, or I ran out of the house and left it behind, or you know, something, could I get my voicemail? No. So I need to learn how to remotely access my voicemail so that I can get messages from family members. I want to be able to change my outgoing message so that it can say, hi, you've reached Dan, I'm fine, I'm staying at Martha's house, you know, whatever it is, so that family and friends who are calling you say, are you okay? Are you okay? They'd be able to hear that, and we can figure out how to connect each other and pass messages. And of course, you already got your out-of-state contact, right? So my cousin Karen in Wisconsin is our contact, and my family would call into her and she'll pass messages around us if we cannot call each other, if the phones are down, and so forth. Okay, Anthony, now go ahead. Now this got overwritten a little, but what it says is sign up for Business Watch. So hopefully you know about this program already. Again, take out your phone right now, 888-777. You've already entered in your zip codes, right? So now you enter in Los Altos Biz and hit send. And that'll register you for Business Watch, which is a program with Los Altos Police Department. Right now it's in the start formation stages, but once we get to critical mass, we'll be able to be sending out a newsletter. This is a way to try and stay informed about criminal activity and trends. So think neighborhood watch, but this is businesses, focused on business. With Business Watch, they'll come out, they'll do a free on-site security assessment for you. Just contact Business Watch. We have the website there, losaltosca.gov/businesswatch, easy to remember. And the goal is to work together, emergency preparedness, crime prevention, help each other know what's going on and get tips. Okay, Anthony. And then a brief advert, crime statistics. If you don't know about this, this is a great tool, City Protect. So Los Altos participates. We upload our data every 24 hours, and you can pull it down from City Connect. That long website is the location on our city website where you can see the information and get a link to it, or you can just Google City Protect. And this will show you little dots about where all the crime reports have been, and they're color coded and little logos to tell you what kind of issue it was. So if you're wondering what's going on, this is a great resource for you to find out what's going on in the city, and you can set the time frame to be a year, a month, a week, a day. It's visualization of data, so you can tweak it the way you want to. Go ahead, Anthony. And then a reminder, just register your alarms and videos. Again, at that City Protect site, there's a link to register your surveillance video cameras. This helps us to get evidence and conduct investigations, right? If something happens, the police can go look up. If you're registered your video camera, they can quickly see who has cameras and contact you, and it just speeds the process versus, hello, do you have a camera? Hello, do you have a camera? It really helps out. And a reminder that you are required to have an alarm permit, whether it's residential or business. So if you don't have alarm permit, just go sign up. And again, I have the long website there for the alarm systems. If you can find the city police department website, you can navigate to it, but that's the shortcut URL. So with that, we'd like to invite your questions and discussion, and would love to tell you more.
Really quickly, I have one final thing to add. I did get an email while we've been on this video. Round 3 of the state's relief program has been announced, and it will be all waitlisted businesses from rounds 1 and 2. So if you were waitlisted in rounds 1 and 2, you automatically move into this round 3. And then they will have a round 4, which is just for nonprofit cultural institutions. And then around 5 at the end of March, and then around 6 in April. So there's a couple more rounds that's going to be going through. But if you were waitlisted from rounds 1 and 2, please keep an eye on your email, and you'll probably get something from the state.
That's great. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay, thanks. So does anybody have any questions? You can either raise your hand like this, or you can raise your hand in the... Kim has a question.
I have one for Anthony. When we look at the, so let me back up 1 second. There's been a decrease in testing now since there's been an increase in vaccination rates. So I'm wondering, when you look at the adjustment that's made to the case rate, I'm wondering how that will affect us and our tier system if we don't get that credit that we've been receiving for having such a high testing rate.
So I will say that the adjusted case rate is kind of like the sausage. I don't know how it's made, how they come to this conclusion, but I will say that I do believe it is impacted by the amount of COVID tests that are happening. So I really want to encourage people to get tested, and especially for our businesses that have frontline workers beyond what we typically think of as frontline with healthcare. I think of our restaurant workers, our bank employees, commercial real estate brokers. I'm looking around at who's in the meeting. A lot of people who interact with people face to face, you should be getting tested regularly. So that way we know if it's being spread through certain groups or how it's moving through the community. So please get tested if you do any interaction with the public. And it will help us in the long run, like Kim is saying. I think as long as we keep getting tests out there and people are getting tested, we'll move to the orange tier, hopefully sometime soon.
Anybody else? Diana?
Thank you for this informational, and I always love the behind the scenes information. That so I know that late last year or early last year, when the pandemic shut everything down, and then there was a lot of the civic unrest that was happening because of the George Floyd issue, and there was a high crime in retail. We didn't see much of that in Los Altos, thankfully, but I know there was word that Palo Alto was also targeted, or could have been targeted at some point at the mall. How does the police kind of talk to each other when you get these tips?
Well, it really depends on what types of tips are coming in. If you're talking about when there was a lot of social justice issues going on last year, We really tried to, I think a lot of departments really tried to be very transparent about where we stood on some of the concerns that were out there. As an example, there was a direction from our city council to put together a police task force of community members. And then Captain Kraus and I sat in meetings for about 6 weeks to hear what the concerns were. And many adjustments were made out of that. There was council direction at the end of the task force, and the police department took a look at everything and made the adjustments that were necessary. But while there were protests and things going on, all of the police departments were communicating with each other. We have mutual aid programs in place so that if there is more personnel needed in a particular area, other agencies will lend their personnel based on that mutual aid agreement. So there's definitely active communication. And again, with protests, the whole goal is to keep the peace and to allow people to exercise their First Amendment rights. But I think it was very successful communication during last year. I mean, if I even try to list the challenges that we had, I mean, we had so many challenges in the law enforcement industry, but I look at businesses, and there's never been any year like this past year for, things that affected not just this region, but I mean, you look, these things affected the entire world. And I hope we never see anything like this again in our lifetime, but none of us in this meeting have seen anything like this in our lifetime. It's just incredible. If we go back and we look at how really all of us have risen above these challenges, it's really amazing just to see how people have worked together to make good things happen.
Thank you.
Mimi had a question. Maybe, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if everybody knows who you are or what business you represent.
Hi there, my name is Mimi Lee, and I'm the proud owner of Curves in Los Altos. Curves is a 30-minute fitness specially designed for women. And so as a small boutique gym, I was very happy to see this update since our county moved to the red tier. And so I'm excited. We get to reopen. Woo! So my question is that if we're anticipating moving from red to orange in the next 2 or 3 weeks, what will that be? How will that be different for a small business? Because that way, with my instructions right now, my staff and I are getting ready to reopen our gym doors for Monday the 8th. And so our customers are scheduling their appointments because we have limited capacity, and so we can keep up with the cleaning and sanitization protocols. But what will that look like when we move from red to orange?
I'm going to share my screen, Mimi, so you can see. I really hope that we do move into this orange tier. Like I said, the soonest it could happen is 3 weeks from yesterday. The good news is that the state does have this cheat sheet, which basically shows as we move forward. So for gyms and fitness centers, as well as everything for the most part, as we move forward, it just increases capacity for you guys. So it would move from 10%, which it is now, to 25. And then if we hopefully continue to move forward and get to yellow, which is the ultimate goal, that there's low case count and everything like that, you would actually be able to be at 50% capacity, which would be great news for you. And these are all based on the county's capacity limitation calculator that is determined based on square footage of the space. But the good news is that you would be able to more than double who could be in your business if we move into the orange tier.
So I have a question, and I'm not sure, I think it's maybe for Scott. So one of the things that Anthony mentioned was that for the restaurants, they can move into this, 25% capacity indoors, and the 6 people at a table, and they don't necessarily have to be all part of the same family unit, if I understood that right, Anthony. And then you said something about, well, maybe different restaurant owners would handle it differently. And then, so I can sort of envision, if different restaurant owners are handling it differently, that customers are going to become maybe a little confused, and we might see some disgruntled customers in our restaurants. And how do you have any advice, Scott, for how our restaurant owners and their staff can handle those sorts of disagreements? Maybe should they come up at, in their businesses?
Were you talking to me or Scott Hunter?
Oh, to you, Scott. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at Scott Hunter the whole time. Okay, so if there are disagreements, I mean, we'll respond to mediate disagreements at any time. I mean, that's really not an issue. You can always call the non-emergency police number if it really rises to that level. We always hope people can work out disagreements amongst themselves. But I mean, if you have a disagreement related to those types of things, our approach for any of the county health protocol, the county health order enforcement has always been to go and educate. And the only time we would ever really initiate any type of enforcement is in really extreme circumstances. But for the most part, we allow the county to handle the enforcement portion of the order.
Okay, thank you.
And I would encourage Cindy to try and make it easier for businesses to not end up in that situation is when people are calling in to reserve, just clarifying the restaurant's stance on what they interpret and would like from customers, just so that way someone doesn't show up and they're surprised by what they find out.
Right.
I have a question real quick. Hey everybody, happy Women's History Month. But I want to say that the wonderful presentation about emergency preparedness. I'm an enthusiastic prepper myself, and so I wonder if Sir will ever come back for because those are good strategies that you laid out. So I know if people are formally trained, that would definitely help. Also, and I like that phone hack about like having your phone charged and just using your voicemail to communicate. That's a good hack. But my question is also along of communication. I'm thinking about doing getting an amateur radio. And is anybody on here who's also ham certified? Is that hard? Is it challenging? That's some of that frequencies and radio waves is a little. I'm finance, so
Okay,
it's a little hard to
hook you up.
grasp a little bit. Yeah.
I will
All right, I'm
hook you
done.
up.
That's it.
So here in Los Altos, we have an active ham radio group that supports emergency communication should it be needed in a disaster. And every Monday night they have a check-in, and the county has a training program, and they love mentoring new hams and bringing them up. So I have some info about how to get your ham license. And the retired fire captain who's doing emergency preparedness Los Altos Hill, she says, if I could get a ham radio license, anybody can. So, it takes some studying and you have to pass the exam, but then you have a lot of help to learn how to use it and to be part of it. And we would be delighted to have you as a ham. So I wrote down your name. I want your email and we will talk.
Rashad, once you're hooked in with Ann, you're not going to get let go. So,
all right.
So come now and just sign up for ham license. Yeah.
Yes. I'm Rashad too, Star One Credit Union. I'm also on the board of the chamber too. If anybody doesn't know me already. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, we'd be delighted to have you involved and to have business owners that get trained as search, get trained as hams, and become part of the emergency preparedness network. It's going to be needed, right? Because we all are going to have to help each other should there be a disaster, and businesses, you have a role to play. So thank you for putting up your hand.
Thank you.
Okay, unless anybody else has a burning question, I'm going to turn it over to Kim for any chamber announcements, and then anybody else that has any other announcements.
I can give you Rashad's contact information if you connect with me after the meeting. Happy to facilitate that.
I was gonna message you in the chat, but if you want to.
Okay, there we go. So I have just a few things I want to make sure are on your radar for this month. We have a virtual networking event with several other chambers on the peninsula this month. It's March 25th, and that will be from 4 to 5:15 p.m. So you'll have the opportunity to network with others outside of our chamber. The State of the Cities virtual luncheon is coming quickly. It's March 26th. That's also a Friday at 11:30. The mayors of Los Altos and Los Altos Hills will be speaking. We've invited our state legislators and Supervisor Joseph Midian to speak as well. So we're checking with him on his calendar and availability, but we're hoping he can join us as the county board has been so influential in the pandemic this year. So we'd love that opportunity as well. We have a social media summit that's scheduled for April 8th, which is a full day of programming to help you promote your business in various aspects of social media. And those are the events that I have. Anyone else?
Scott Hunter.
Sorry, I was trying to find the website to put it in the chat. Reminder that free testing, we talked about, continuing to get testing even as things are going on with vaccines. The next free testing in downtown is at the Assistance League building next Tuesday. And I'll put there's a link to El Camino Hospital who is doing the testing, and I'll put that in the chat and you can go there and sign up. There are spaces open. Oh, look, Anthony beat me to it.
Gary, go ahead.
Just reporting that the Lunch with Greentown series is still continuing. This is Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon. We've had a number of interesting speakers, and the attendance has been anywhere from 20 to 50 people. So it's going well. The one that's coming up on Thursday is with tomorrow is Louis Pellegrini talking about the latest trends in waste and recycling. And so if anybody wants to join up and for the rest of these, it'll run through the end of March. Just reach out to info@greentownlosaltos.org. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Mimi?
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I feel like my membership with the Chamber of Commerce and how well Kim, you and your team coordinated with the city. I feel like, wow, I definitely felt the value of my membership with the Chamber of Commerce. I felt really safe as a small business owner. I felt very well connected with the communication, timely communication for the funding, or just making sure that we keep our staff safe and following the protocols and all. So I just wanted to say thank you, along also Scott for the police, so I feel very lucky to have a business in the city of Los Altos and feel very well supported. So wanted to say thank you. I also have a question, if you wouldn't mind. I don't know if this applies to everyone, but there was one slide, Anthony, that you were saying that if an employee tests positive, they're to report to the public health officer or public health department within 4 hours. Wouldn't you want them to just call, or do you actually want them to go to the office and present having tested positive? Or can you clarify the process? Because, I think.
Cindy, do you want to take it?
Yeah, it's just a phone call. They don't have to go down there. It's just, you need to, I think it's the employer who is supposed to report it. Yeah,
So
the employee reports to the employer, and then the employer has the obligation to report to the health department.
The other thing is that, can we just kind of take the long view? Because I'm very nervous. I mean, I have sleepless nights owning a small gym because I don't want my customers to be hurt, but they so want to get back to the gym and work out. So the long view over the next 2 to 5 years, are you anticipating that we're going to continue even when we get to the yellow tier? Will we still be asking customers to wear their face mask indoors? Still be, hyper vigilant about using the hand sanitizer, keeping 6 feet social distancing? What happens if, in the flu season this next fall, in the flu season, someone does contract it and, we're in the yellow tier? Will we still have to call the, public health department? I mean, what would that look like for a small business?
So I think we're way too early to be predicting exactly what's going to happen 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. And we are past our time. So, and I have another call at least. I don't know if others do. So I'm going to end us here if that's okay. Thank you, Anthony and Anne.
Let me do just a quick advert. I'm going to pop into the chat here, the website. We do every 2 weeks, we have COVID Q&A with Dr. Yu, which is presenting the latest in the medical science, and then you can ask questions. And so that's a great way to stay in tune with the latest as well, a resource for you. Thank you.
One last thing, I did want to mention too that Star One is moving, is opening a branch in Los Altos. So you've already seen the sign, but right there on San Antonio. So just wanted to mention that. Should be around Q3 sometime. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Kim, I'm going to email this PowerPoint to you.